This episode of Jackie's Groove is brought to you by Jambox. Jambox is a hands-free, breath-powered MIDI instrument that brings the joy of music creation to all ages and all abilities. Visit jambox.com, JAMBOXX.com.
The obstacle is darkness. You're living in an invisible world, right? Only you could see Harry Potter. To everybody else, it's like, yeah, right. You know what I'm saying? You're like, I could see me at the garden. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I could see the Magic City. People's like, man, you're not going to be nothing. It's not going to happen. You're just a dreamer. There's a billion people doing what you're doing. What makes you think it's you? You know what I mean? These are the things that you have to withstand. If you can withstand these kind of things and really believe in faith and believe in faith and in destiny. Because a lot of people that's listening, what's going to happen is people are going to discourage you. They're going to say, it ain't going to happen. And whenever they say that, always remember, this is when it starts to happen.
Dig it.
You know what I mean?
Welcome to Jackie's Groove. Come journey with us through the rhythm of the music business with your host, Jackie Bertoni.
You, that mean what's good. Now what's good, what's good, what's good. Now what's hood, what's hood, what's hood. Cause we zoos. Raised with the zoos on the block. Drum roll with the band in my socks. Twin Glock, aimed at the ops. Another one in the box. I told my whole gang.
Everybody, welcome to Jackie's Groove. Hey, this is Jackie Bertoni, brought to you by Intertalk Radio. Connect to all things music. Hey guys, it's April the 4th. It is Wednesday, and I'm proud and I'm honored to bring into my studio and onto the network a gentleman I've been a fan of for years. And of course, millions of people throughout the world have been a fan also. I'm going to cut right to it, man. I'm going to welcome with open arms to Jackie's Groove, Mr. Wyclef Jean. Wyclef, welcome to the show, my brother.
What up, fam? It's all love. You know, I had to take this time out. I'm actually at the bowling alley with my daughter. You know, she's 13. She had a birthday. So very excited. You know, I'm growing up. You know what I'm saying? And at the same time, still could be a cool dad to my daughter. So that's the best thing.
Family
and
first.
Everybody listening, it's an honor to be on the show and stuff with y'all.
Thank you, brother, man. I mean, it's family first, man. I'm gonna just gonna kick it all off, and let's talk about the Carnival Tour 2018 that's on now. What do you want to educate the people worldwide about, and why they shouldn't miss this amazing event?
The Carnival Tour is a one-man show. Basically, the whole stage is set up like a studio. I take you through a time machine. We started in 1994, and we finished in 2018, you know. I'm like one of the last of the musicians from the 90s that could go from cassette tapes to streaming rates, you know. So all of the new material they stream, like, you know, over 100 million through Spotify and iTunes and all of that. And then all the classic material, not just Wyclef material, but material that I've written for people, whether if it's Carlos Santana, Maria, DJ Khaled samples that, whether it's My Love's Your Love. So the show is a interactive show like Discovery. It's sort of like, you know, after Quincy Jones did like Michael Jackson Thriller and all of that, and he decided to tour the world with a symphony. So because, you know, to show them who the man behind the music is, you know. So this is like a way of thanking my fans for showing them, you know, who the man behind a lot of the music is, you know.
I love it, man. You know, so basically you're giving back, and you're saying giving thanks back to the people who made Wyclef what he is today. And
you know, in school I was a jazz major also, you know, and the cool thing about the jazz musicians understood that at times you got to pack your bag and go around the world and thank fans from all over for what they've been doing. So I'm very thankful, I'm very grateful, and this is my way I give the fans back an experience.
Putting this together, the Carnival Tour, was this a long time in the making, or was this something that came off the top of your head?
No, definitely we was trying to rock out and do it, but remember I tried to become president of Haiti, like Fela Kuti tried to be president of Nigeria. John Lennon after the Beatles, he had the Give Peace a Chance movement. You know what I mean?
Right.
So this is like basically like coming back. You feel me? So that's why it's called the rise of, the fall and rise of a refugee. So, not too many hip hop artists could go and be like, oh, I'm coming up. We're setting a tour. And the love is definitely real,
And let me ask you this question. You just brought it up a second ago. The fact that you ran for presidency of Haiti, what was your motivation from that, Wyclef? Tell the listeners out there, what was the premise of this? Was it looking for change of the people? What were you trying to prove, and what were you trying to take away with that?
I mean, 80% of my population is living on less than $1 a day. What y'all didn't see behind the scenes was I was the biggest negotiator in my country for the UN and the gangs. I stopped a lot of the violence. I also went down to Washington, D.C. I got a lot of bill called HOPE passed for my country. It was the textile company bill. 80% of my population, like living on less than $1 a day, 50% is under 21, and I'm their leader. So at the end of the day, when I stepped up, I felt like we had a chance where we could have got better policy, better legislation. The greatest thing that we have in our country is human capital in the soil.
Dig it.
I wanted to set up a program with agri-banks like they do in Israel and different parts of the world. So once again, not only do we talk about it, you know what I'm saying, but we actually got the brain to make that change. So even if they took me out of the race, there's a young little Wyclef right now that's like 13 years old. That's like, I'm going to be president of Haiti.
Love it,
and that's what it's about.
Hey, and Wyclef, what is the current government? Do they approve of your stance on your political views, or are they trying to shun you like our government does?
No, they definitely approve the views. You know what I'm saying? All I could do is keep going with my strong beliefs, And I just really have one focus. The focus is the youth. And the idea of the youth is education and economical freedom. And in order to do that, you have to use the resources of the country.
And that's such a good point because, we all were children at one time, and I believe, and what I understand and what I read is your father was a pastor in the service, and he didn't really approve of your music itself, the devil's music as it was written. Does he come to accept your success now and what you put forth?
I mean, my daddy passed away, you know what I mean? Before he passed away, he came to one of my shows, Carnegie Hall. And the only reason he came, I tricked him. I told him I'm playing with a gospel choir, you know what I mean?
I love it.
It was the greatest show of my life, man. Carnegie Hall, Wyclef and Friends. Everybody was in there. But the greatest thing to me was he got a chance to see me with his eyes open and where he can hear. And he was like, when you know you made it, is when the people in the arena, they come to see the man, they don't come to see the color,
Yeah.
And I think that was his way of saying, you've captured universal peace and love.
And when you think back about it, for a second, just think for a quick minute. Was there a person, family-wise or other, that was your inspiration, that was your mentor to write the music and become who Wyclef is today?
Definitely. I credit that to the village in Haiti. I used to hear the old folks just singing in the village constantly. Okay, cool. I used to hear the people in the village. Hold on one second.
Go ahead, man.
Yeah, cool. No problem. Yeah. That was my daughter. Yeah. So I credit that to that. But growing up in the church and playing music and singing songs, right? So my dad was a missionary. I get to America at 10 years old, I'm worshiping every Sunday. I'm going through the hymn book. And when the hymn book is done, my dad's like, okay, well, you ran out of hymns. You got to start making up songs. Then I became the choir director. And all of that music just lived within me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, dig it. And Wyclef, other than the ability to write and to become, the guitarist that you are, but what turned you into a multi-instrumentalist? Was it the music that you were trying to produce and create that called for that set instrument at all? Or do you want to share with us on that?
Yeah, well, that I got those chops from my dad's church, So every instrument that came in the church, if it was drums, I had to learn how to play it. Bass, and then in high school, it crafted more because as a jazz major, one of the first instruments I was introduced to was upright.
Yeah,
so I wanted to be a conductor. So, I was inspired by like Gershwin and Quincy Jones. So I at least wanted to have an understanding of instruments, and somehow my neuro was able to pick up like 10 different instruments. at a time.
Would you say that guitar is your main axe that you play, or do you share the equal love with all the instruments?
It's so funny because when people see me play bass, they say I play bass better than guitar. So, but my love instruments is piano, bass, and guitar. Great writing instruments.
Let's talk about hip hop guitar.
Mm-hmm.
You want to?
Well, I think
elaborate?
like moving towards the future. I'm inspired the same way Dr. Dre was inspired to come up with Beats by Dre. You know what I mean? I'm the only hip hop guitarist in my generation. The Fugees, the vocab was the first acoustic hip hop song ever.
Yeah.
The idea of instruments, live instruments and music. So it's been 2 years now. I've been developing what will be the first hip hop guitar of our generation. We're still working on the coding from a kid that's 6 years old could pick it up to a kid that's 60 years old. The algorithm of how you're going to play this guitar is basically how I learned how to play, where I'm self-taught. So being self-taught, I can teach people how to play guitar in like 10 to 15 minutes.
Man, that's so cool, man. You know, because, again, feeding back and giving back to the babies, our next generation of music. And I'm real curious, and so are my listeners, and so are your fans. But what was, if you can think back, what was the main struggle that you went through to become the Wyclef that you are today? What were the obstacles that you faced?
I mean, the obstacle is darkness. You're living in an invisible world, right? Only you could see Harry Potter. You know what I mean? And it's like, to everybody else, it's like, yeah, right. You know what I'm saying? You're like, I could see me at the garden. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I could see the Magic City. And people's like, man, you're not going to be nothing. It's not going to happen. You're just a dreamer. There's a billion people doing what you're doing, what makes you think it's you. You know what I mean? These are the things that you have to withstand. If you can withstand these kind of things and really believe in faith and believe in faith and in destiny. Because a lot of people that's listening, what's going to happen is people are going to discourage you. They're going to say, it ain't going to happen. And whenever they say that, always remember, this is when it starts to happen. You know what I mean?
And also, how much does faith drive you in writing music and inspiring and what you write?
Faith is everything, man. You know what I'm saying? I'm inspired by people. I could never run out of inspiration. I've been through so much. I've watched my friends go through so much. I travel parts of the world, you know what I'm saying? And I've seen so much, you know what I mean? And I'm joined in the hip through this music vibration with musicians all over the world.
And Wyclef, I'm 57 years old, and I've been through the industry a number of years. I've seen it change, not on a yearly basis or on a monthly basis, but a daily basis. If you were a young man again and you were coming up in today's industry, what would you try to overcome? What difference would you make to put your best foot forward and to make it make sense of the music industry of today?
I mean, really putting your best foot forward means originality, just basically believing in yourself and make sure that you surround yourself with some of the right people. You know what I mean? It's like at the end of the day, when I look at my 20-year-old self, people that was with me is either dead or in prison. You know what I'm saying to you? And you get that one chance, like my record says Hendrix, like you really get that one shot. So I always talk to the 20-year-olds, like Kodak Black, different kids, and I'm like, yo, at the end of the day, I'm like y'all. The only thing that was changed is that idea of making that right choice. And that's what I always encourage kids to do.
Now, when you think back and asking this question, it's almost like asking, who your favorite child is. But does Wyclef have a favorite album of your own?
Yeah, definitely. My favorite. No, not yet. I'm still working on that one.
Love it.
But my favorite album of all time is Exodus by Bob Marley and Pink Floyd, The Wall. Why
on both?
Well, I mean, the expression of Marley and how he used, words and the grooves and the phonetics and the parables, for me, that was incredible. Pink Floyd, the minute I heard that album, I wanted to be an engineer. So automatically at a young age, I fell in love with rock through Pink Floyd. And then I knew that the music I would produce would be one word. It's eclectic. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. And I'm real curious to find out also, too, with that said, have you heard through the industry that Pink Floyd knows that you're a fan of their music? Out of curiosity?
I mean, of course, not only Pink Floyd know that I'm a fan of their music, Pink Floyd, I'm the only one that they gave rights to do Wish You Were Here.
Oh, that's very cool.
And they heard it, and they was like, yo, Wyclef, we love this version. So shout out to Pink Floyd.
Yeah, man. You know, because we have such a cross-section of people worldwide that tune into Jackie's Groove. And I got to ask this question because I'm real curious. When you sit down to write, what is your writing process? Is it instrumental first? Is it words first? What inspires you to sit down? And do you ever find yourself in writer's block at all?
Well, I mean, a lot of it starts with words, right? So I'm a natural poet. I've been into hip hop since I've been 11. So as a hip hopper, words are constant. Sometimes they come from words, sometimes melody, sometimes from an instrument, a theme, sometimes from a beat, you know what I mean? Sometimes from a bass line. It comes from various energies and places.
And I love it, man, because, the aforementioned Bob Marley, my question to you, and I'm real curious to find out, other than Damien and Ziggy and Kimani and the Marley Boys, did you ever get a chance to collaborate or even meet Bob?
No. I wasn't really around. I was like a little baby, you know what I'm saying? It's like I was just a little fan. Me and Steve Marley, you know what I mean? We're real tight. You know what I mean? So when Bob was around, I was like a little kid like them, you know what I mean? Moving around, but I'm real tight with Steve. Me and Ziggy Marley, we both born October 17th, you know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
So we got a great connection.
I got to ask you a question, man. I was stalking you, if you would, on the internet. I saw this crazy video of a gentleman by the name of Shaquille O'Neal, and he was coming out of an office and he was singing Guantanamera with a sombrero and a serape on him. What's the background of that? How close are you with Shaq?
I mean, Shaq's my man, you know what I'm saying? We go all the way back to Jersey, you know what I mean? Shaq, original Newark crew. It's all love through the years. We connect over and over again. You can look old photos online. You see the Fugees with Shaq. The album, The Carnival, is one of Shaq's favorite albums. The song Guantanamera by me, he's obsessed by that. And, he's always doing funny stuff. Him and Will Smith, two of my favorites.
Yeah, friends. Man. And speaking of earlier about all the hits that you wrote, let's go back for a favorite song of mine and worldwide also, a song called Maria Maria, in which you wrote along with personal friends of mine that wrote with you on that song, Carl Parasso, Roland, and everybody from Santana. What was your inspiration, and were you happy by the success and the trajectory that placed Santana in a different mode of music with Maria Maria?
I mean, of course, for me, it's a transformation. If you speak to Carlos, he'll tell you I looked right at him, and I hit started playing the Fender Rhodes, and the record started. For me, I was a big fan of Carlos, still a big fan of the gypsy scales from Woodstock that he used to play, a very mysterious scale.
Dig it.
I'm also a big fan of West Side Story, the movie.
Really?
So I just knew for my generation at the time. So when you hear the song Maria Maria, it reminds me of West Side Story.
Absolutely.
So Maria is the girl from West Side Story. And then so what happens is if you put Santana in the middle of that. So once again, just another weird thing that comes from my brain, you know what I'm saying? It manifests.
And let's move over to Hips Don't Lie with Shakira. What was the inspiration behind that tune?
I mean, coming from the Caribbean, I love to do records to make people dance too, you know what I mean? That's some of my strong points. And Shaki, that record, Hips Don't Lie, was done 2 years prior to doing it for Shakira. I did it for Clive Davis for a soundtrack, Havana Nights. And then 2 years later, Shaki needed a song. She heard it and wanted to flip it, and then there you have it.
I mean, I got to tell you, it's like anything. I'll listen to anything that she puts out anyways. I have to ask another question, too, and it's really important to me. And, you can choose to answer yes or no, but how bad do you miss the Fugees as a collaborative group?
Well, I mean, once a man, twice a child. You know what I mean? It's like I did this score, and it sold 30 million. After that, I did the Carnival 7. Then we did 911, and all of the great music that you talk about. I really don't look back. You know what I'm saying? But I'll always miss my foundation. Foundation is like saying, do you miss your high school basketball team? Of course I do. You know what I mean? But I'm playing for the NBA right now, so I'm okay.
Yeah, I dig it, man. And I got to ask a question, man. My best friend, Paul Parker, big fan of Wyclef. He asked me to do me a favor and ask you, because we're car nuts, please tell me that you still have the McLaren F1 in your stable.
Oh, man, tell him I love the F1, but I had to sell that. But tell him that he is going to go crazy I'm working on my first concept motorcycle right now.
Are you really?
So, yeah. So I'm creating something called the Clef Kits, and it's going to be like a few futuristic things from cars to bikes. You know what I mean?
Is it going to be?
So you'll actually be able to see the first concept bike that I'm going to rock with in the next 2 months. You'll see it on my Instagram.
Now, is this going to be in the vein of a pocket rocket, if you were, a rice burner, or is it going to be more of a cruiser like a Harley and an Indian and so on?
Definitely a cruiser, futuristic cruiser, because we're older now, you know?
Man, I think it's really cool because I'm curious. And, I asked that question because I'm a former Harley Davidson rider for years, but because of my infliction of multiple sclerosis and that kind of affected my balance, it's kept me from riding on two wheels. Is there any plan at all for you to maybe make available as a trike?
Yeah, no, definitely. We thought about that. I got a friend the same way, just like you. You know what I mean? That's why we want to work on something very wide conceptually with balance. It won't take you much to move the bike.
Yeah, because, it's such a great situation because, I'm all about, the industry knows that Jackie puts his best foot forward, and there's no secret that MS has changed my musical trajectory in the way of being a worldwide tour and turning it around to radio and to in the studio playing as a percussionist. But I'm going to tell you, you being the innovator of all these years, I was introduced to a company called Jambox, JAMBOXX.com, in which they are a proud sponsor now of Jackie's Groove and Talk Radio. It's a MIDI-controlled wind instrument that looks like a large harmonica. And for those who have been inflicted with diseases, your friend, myself, that limits your ability to play with your hands and or your feet, as long as you can breathe, suck and blow, if you will, you can play any instrument that was taken away from you. And if I can just, I know how much you're into education, but if I'm going to play a couple tunes for you right now, if I can, I want you to hear Jambox. Now, the first couple tunes I'm going to play are kind of obvious of what it is, but I want you to hear a couple tunes real quick. Paul, can you go ahead and bring that up? Check this out. Now, this is a gentleman that has lost the ability to use his hands, but he's playing the Careless Whisper as a tribute to George Michael. And the second tune we're going to play from another gentleman that is that's been afflicted by he's a paraplegic, but I want you to hear his rendition and his song. Check this out. Yeah, man. Those are two obvious choices. Those are being played with the wind instrument. But I'm going to play the final one for you, and it's going to blow you out of the water because it's, even though we're on radio, you can't see this, but I want you to close your eyes for a second and listen to what a guitar sounds like through Jambox. Go ahead, Paulie. Now, that's not crazy enough. I mean, that sounds like Carlos Santana playing, and that is all done through breath at all. And I want to make sure I get this out to you because there's not a home studio and or a corporate studio that should be without a Jambox. I want to get one out to you, and I want you to check this out, man.
Please, and my people will definitely get that to me. Make sure I get that.
I'll get it out to men.
I've heard of Jambox, right? And it's so funny because me and Santana was talking about vibration, right? And a lot of times people forget the genesis of the sound comes from a vibration, right?
Absolutely.
So, and that's just the genesis of it, right? So in understanding that, I definitely commend the guys with the Jambox, and I look forward to hearing more. Yeah,
I'll put it out to Madeline, and I'll get it out to Sky. And I also want to say, for a man that's been, on the forefront of music, I got to give you props, brother. The whole idea of Heads Up Music. Now, I don't know if that's just a label that you're playing for, if you're a partner in that, but with Madeline being the head of the label itself, I think it is so amazing that you've incorporated your business into an office full of women. And
no, definitely. And I'm a partner, and it don't get no better than a full independent label that's a woman label. I don't get bigger than that. They're innovative, they're smart, they're quick, and I love us men, man, but, for example, my comeback in the past 3 years, streaming over 100 million on Spotify with all of the new Wyclef material. This is all credited to how these young entrepreneur women are moving. So it's incredible.
You know, I think it's amazing. You just talked about the humming and the vibrations of music, and you talked about the aforementioned fact about jazz. Everything that we're doing today is jazz-inspired. There's not one song that's out right now that's being written that hasn't been touched by jazz. Do you agree with me on that 100%?
3 trillion%, you know what I mean? And I'm living testimony of that, you know what I'm saying to you? So people be like, I mean, it's hard. I keep every generation, like, how come he keeps coming back? Then you got Young Thug with songs that are called Wyclef Jean. Like, yo, we don't understand. And I'm just like, you know, once you understand the fundamentals of jazz, the science of it, right, the algorithm of it, then you understand how to move forward. It's so funny. So when I'm putting out the hip-hop guitar, I'm going to be putting out my first instrumental album with it.
Really?
Yeah, so you can imagine my first guitar album, like all instrumental. So, I mean, we're probably 2 years away from that, but you can imagine, like, my influence and, you know what I mean? Like, you put a Carlos Santana, a Thelonious Monk, and Miles Davis Bitches Brew in Wyclef's brain. You know what I mean? Like, you don't know, I don't know what's coming out. You know what I mean?
When you sit down and you put this music together, Wyclef, are you doing this at a home studio? Are you doing it at a major studio? Are you using Pro Tools? Are you using Logic? What are you doing in the way of the process?
I mix hardware with software, so now everything's converted to the box, you know. So we use Pro Tools. We also use Ableton Live. We also use Fruity Loops, you know. And then for the hardware part, we just, you know, we smash it into the Pro Tools, you know what I mean? But we move with a small rig, you know. Technology has been converted now to us being able, through plugins, to work through the box.
Can we talk about Sakafet that we started the show off with itself, the inspiration behind that, and what is the meaning of that song?
Okay, so Sakafet is saying, like, what's up? You know, if you're from China, it's Ni Hao Ma. You know, you could say Shalom, you know, Al-Salam Alaikum. It's like, you pick your language, Doodoo Bang, whatever. It's like, we good, we here. And it's the first song from the new mixtape, which is called Wyclef Goes Back to School. The reason why Sakafet is coming from Haiti, I wanted to incorporate phonetics that was in Creole because Haiti has been in the news in the forefront. And I wanted to give y'all something that's not in the Rosetta Stones. And the hook is so cool because I'm saying Sakafet, Sakafet, and then I said, and that means what's good, what's good, what's good. And the story of Sakafet is I go back to the start of how the neighborhood was, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, you know, raised on this block. You know, I watched police shooting back and forth. I watched the youth, you know. I watched my cousins go from drug dealers to the Mona Lisa painting being shot off the wall, you know. Ouch. And I'm basically letting the youth know at the end of the day, it's like I write like Johnny Cash. I just write honest. And I'm saying at the end of the day, we could go back to the love. The love is like Sakafet. What's good? What's going on? Everything's going to be okay. You know what I mean?
Man, you know, I dig it because when Madeline sent the song to us, I caught this 57-year-old man named Jackie Bertoni with my head down, and I couldn't stop bopping. And all night long, my wife and I walked around the house singing Sakafet, Sakafet, you know, and it's like it brought back memories of the old Third World song called Now That We Found Love. Let Natty shook all over the place. And it's that hook that brings back and it evokes the response. When you say Sakafet, is it your dream to look out in the audience and see the tens of thousands of people bobbing their head in rhythm to what it means?
Definitely 100%. And that's what's been going on with the tour, and that's what's going to continue from millennials on down. You know what I mean? Like Sakafet. And so if you're loving that, you can imagine what the whole mixtape sounds like. Wyclef Goes Back to School. And I'm inspired, and it's going to be great.
And I want to talk about this also, which is really cool. Because of the Carnival 2018 tour, you're going to be out in our neck of the woods, and I think it to be kind of funny that it is falling on 420. Is that a coincidence, or is there a message in that date?
No, it's definitely, that's
I think we dropped you right there. Let's see.
It just landed on that day.
Yeah, it's and just so you know, it's literally about 15 minutes from our studio here in San Diego. It's a gorgeous venue. You are going to tear it up, my brother, up there itself. It's it's going to be amazing. And now let's talk about the size and audiences that you're performing in front. Do you have a preference if you're playing in front of 10 people or if you're playing in front of 100,000 people? What inspires you, regardless of size of audience?
I'm just inspired by people, you know what I mean? So when we do like these big symphonic shows with the symphonies, we have like big, large crowds. And then when we do like the one-man show, it's like 1,000 people packed in a room. And it's like just the energy and the love is very strong. You know what I mean?
Now, when you say a symphony, talk to me about the setup in the way of musicianship that is touring on the Carnival Tour 2018.
Yeah, the hip-hop symphonics, where we combine symphony with hip-hop music.
Perfect. I love it, man. And Wyclef, if I can be so blatant and ask you if I can read a couple, actually more than a couple, but we have some great responses from our listeners and your fans. If I'm going to read off a couple of those, if I may. And they'd like an answer, a shout out. So let's start out with a friend of mine, Kristen Lee, who actually works for the network. Was there a song or album when you were younger that inspired you to play music? What album was that and what song was that?
I would say for me, when I heard Bob Marley's Exodus, Movement of Jah People, it inspired me, and I knew I wanted to write my own songs, you know?
And are you happy with what came out of your brain onto paper?
Every day I keep trying to improve it.
Okay, that's fair enough. And also, too, from Barbara Reed, I love this question. What was the inspiration for Borrowed Time?
Borrowed Time, so many different records. Tracy Chapman, Fast Car, Billy Joel, We Ain't Start the Fire, Tupac's version of the Bruce Hornsby, That's Just the Way It Is, you know. Marvin Gaye, What's Going On, and just wanted to write a record for the times.
You know, and I'm going to ask a question also, too, a question that's been in my mind for ever since I knew I had the opportunity to interview Wyclef. And I'm going to ask this question from Mike Kimball, and, of course, the other hundreds of thousands of people that want to know this. Will there ever be another Fugees reunion?
They said never say never, right? So I'm going to stick to that.
You know, it's so funny that you say that because I've asked Al Di Meola if there would ever be a reunion of Return to Forever. He said the same thing. He said the same thing. Never say never in this industry itself, and I think that's going to give a lot of inspiration to the people out there that are fans, not only Wyclef and Lauren, but the fact of getting a chance to hear the Fugees now. You know, of getting back together. And with that said, and putting the cart well in front of the horse, if that reunion comes together, will the Fugees be performing all the songs that made them famous, or are they open-minded to write what's new and what's current?
I think a combination of and inspire, you know, and I've always been a forefront, like as a Fugees producer. The Fugees are very progressive and constantly will, test it. It'll never get old with time. It's constantly being invented. So.
You know, and I think I touched on it before about, your involvement in music incentives and education for the youth itself. Is there a program, is there a website that people can go to and to reach out to you in the way of donations and the way of crowdfunding to better the cause of your writing of music and educating young children?
Well, I think, one of the programs I support is the VH1 Save the Music program.
Love it.
Definitely, y'all can look into that. That's a very serious program. I'm part of it. Queen Latifah's part of it. A lot of us, DJ Khaled's part of it. We definitely support music programs in the schools. You know,
I think, again, too, taking music out of the schools is the biggest travesty that we're facing. We've got to put it back in it. And it's going to be people like you and I and the like to educate the people that have the ability to keep music and keep it in the schools where it belongs. And to stress the fact of the matter is, as I always say, peace through music. You can't have peace if there's no music behind it. What is your feelings on that itself? Do you feel that music can tame the savage beast?
Well, I think music is part of taming the savage beast, but the education of music and using it as the right tool is always effective.
Yeah, man. And also, too, I'm real curious about this. If you were a young man, if there was a young Wyclef, what would you tell the younger Wyclef? What would your inspirations be to him?
Pace yourself, take one day at a time, don't rush, and just stay focused, you know what I mean?
And also, too, when someone walks off and out of an audience at a Wyclef Jean concert, Carnival 2018, what is your biggest dream? What do you want the takeaway to be with that performance?
I mean, when they walk out, they feel like they just left a revival, the global gumbo, an experience of a time machine. They just feel like, what the hell? We just took a ride around the whole world and came back. Does Wyclef get the music business as it is today? Yeah, I mean, not only do I get it, I'm very effective in it and very influential in it. All the way to the point where if it's DJ Khaled sampling Maria or Young Thug doing my song, it definitely feels good not to just be the old man in the room, you know what I mean, talking about war stories, but that the kids still use the Wyclef music as reference, you know what I mean?
And Wyclef, again, looking back and choosing the favorite child, is there a song that you weren't involved in that's in the musical history, the music soundtrack of our lives that you wish you had your name put on that in a song?
Yeah.
What was
Michael Jackson beat it.
Really? Why?
Greatest solo of all time, man.
And just
the energy of that song, the style of how Quincy Jones produced it, the sonics of electro against symphony music, insanity.
And also too itself, in the way of engineers and producers and such, have you ever had the opportunity to work with Quincy at all on any projects?
Definitely, I've worked with Quincy. Quincy, I consider him the godfather. Also worked with Michael Jackson. I think if you Google like Wyclef and Quincy Jones song, it'll definitely pop up. Also, Wyclef and Michael Jackson song. So I've worked with everyone, man. I'm just fortunate and continue to.
One thing I've always loved about Wyclef Jean is that you're open-minded, you're honest. And I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to put it right up front. What was your opinion about the interview placed with Quincy Jones?
I mean, once again, that's Q. Q is the godfather, It's 85. And once again, he's there. So he's always going to have information. And then once again, you have to information, right? So some people might be like, man, I don't like this information or that information. I don't. But the good thing is he puts it all out there, right? And at the end of the day, it's very important that the information is out there.
And do you feel that what he said was because of age, that he's been through it all and he doesn't care or needed to be told?
I'm not Q is just Q. It's just, there's nothing to lose. You know what I'm saying to you? All he could do is give you information.
And when you're putting down music, let's say that Wyclef is now sitting in the studio and you've already got the song in your mind. Now, do you lay down the basic tracks? Curious as a musician, are you playing the rhythm section first? How are you writing that? What's the first to go down on paper, onto tape?
I definitely, it all depends. Sometimes I put the rhythm. Sometimes I put the...
Okay, I'm sorry, you got cut out there. So you put the rhythm down, and what else did you cut out on that?
Yeah, it starts off with the rhythm, bass line, sometimes guitar. I love like bass and guitars. They set it off.
I talked about before Madeline and Sky, and what keeps it all together. And I'm very grateful for my team here at Intertalk. In fact, I have the CEO sitting next to me right now. They just walked into the studio, and he wants to say hi to you, Wyclef, because he's a big fan of yours. So I want Wyclef to say hi to Florentino. Florentino, say hi to Mr. Jean.
Hey, what's up, Wyclef? How you doing, man?
What's good? Everything is good.
Oh, man, we're enjoying this interview, brother. I've been listening, and I'm here now. And, I want to give a shout-out to Sky and Madeline, because they were really, really influential in putting this all together. And I appreciate your team, man. That's we know how hard it is to make this industry work in this day and age. It's been pretty crazy. And I think Jackie was kind of alluding to that. I heard him talking to you about how this industry is working, man. I got a question for you. So everybody's got their questions in. We probably got, I don't know. We're trying to get through all of them, but we had like 100 questions or something like that. It's just some crazy amount of submissions that we have when we put this out. But my question for you is, man, what's the revenue model for this day and age? How, you're on tour. Obviously, you're talking about doing things like making motorcycles, new custom motorcycles, all these different things. What does Wyclef see as the way the next generation of musicians are going to start making revenue? Because most of these cats are having some challenges out here.
And so I would say the bulk of my wealth comes from my publishing catalog, right? So that's worth a lot based on the catalog that I write. So all the musicians that are listening, the first thing is you have to build strength in catalog, right? So it's important that you come up with a bulk of work that's great copyright, that because there's so much information, you want to be the go-to person. So if Hollywood is looking for a movie, set up a site, set up orchestra music, jazz music, hip-hop, everything. This is important. Now, the way that you make money is what's called sync. So sync licenses are very important. So, like per month, sync licenses that come in for Wyclef. The revenue stream that I'm seeing is coming and selling product on tour. So when people are saying, CDs don't sell the work, pack your bus up with CDs, pack them up with hats, pack them up with merchandise, anything that you're trying to sell, so that it works, because what the crowd will do is they will buy. I call it an emotion.
Yeah. Are you there, Wyclef?
They are going to buy it all the time.
Very cool. I'm sorry, man. We're having a little bit of interference. It sounds like there was some cutting in and out. I want to kind of summarize that for the listening audience. Basically, get your licensing. Get that dialed in, because that's what's driving Wyclef. Make sure you have all your CDs, all your hats, anything else. In fact, I'm going to do a shameless plug for Jackie. We're launching Jackie's Brew today. We should talk to you about this one too, man. Jackie has his own line of coffee. And so Jackie's Brew's coming out. I'm shamelessly plugging it.
No, it's okay, and we'll get that out to the girls also, too. So we want to get... Yeah. Are you a coffee lover at all, Wyclef?
A what?
Are you a coffee lover?
Of course. I'm from Haiti.
Okay, man. Well, and mine is, and my coffee's all from Honduras, so I'm going to send you some out to the offices itself, and I want you to get jacked up on Jackie's Brew, for the lack of a better word.
Exactly, man. And then, like I said, I'm just
100%. It's all about that Jackie's Brew, baby. Let's go.
Dig it, man. Dig it.
Wyclef Brew next, man.
Wyclef Brew, exactly.
There we go. But yeah, I just wanted to finish up that summary because there was some parts that you cut off. But yeah, I think that is huge in this day and age. Microsoft just bought Spotify and all these different things. Licensing has definitely been huge for you. Can you see that happening in this day and age where you have these artists? Obviously, sync licensing is probably the biggest one that you mentioned, but getting those hits like you've had with the Fugees, with your own material. Hopefully this one's going to go through the roof, the biggest one that you ever had, this new release. Do you think that's a possibility with these artists that are just coming up right now?
100%. And I tell the artists, compromise the artist. The artist number one, right? Adele is still Adele. She's bulletproof. She's invincible. Amy Winehouse, God bless her. She passed away. Oh, yeah. But you see her music. So artistry will always prevail everything. Beyonce is from the 90s. Jay-Z from the 90s. Clef is from the 90s. Puff is from the 90s. Nas is from the 90s. This is 2018. How are we able to still be sustainable for younger generations?
I'm sorry, we're getting a really bad connection here, brother. Itself, I don't know if you're moving around the bowling rink at all, or but on the bowling alley. But I want to ask you a question, and this is a question that I'm curious about. How does your music differ from when you were writing with the Fugees to what the music's coming out of your head right now? What has it changed, or do you feel it's been changed at all? It just got your name solo on it.
Well, the biggest change is when I was with the Fugees and I did "Killing Me Softly." I noticed that I made somebody millions of dollars through a publishing check. And I was like, holy crap, I want to be my own Killing Me Softly. So now when DJ Khaled and Rihanna samples my record, or when Migos samples my record, the checks become me. So the biggest thing that I love, right, that I learned from the Fugees was the inspiration. Because a lot of that stuff I was sampling and producing it, you know what I mean?
Where's in where you grew up? You know, growing up in Haiti, was there a trench town in Haiti that you want to share, and what's going on there now?
Yeah, trench town. So
Really,
this is the town. Like it's the vibe. It's just like trench town. A lot of energy, and I would say for me, a lot of my swagger and rawness is because I'm from that town.
And do you feel that the youth is actually latching onto it? Do they recognize, even though you're not living in Haiti, do they recognize that you still are the voice of?
No, because in my country, it's like I am the Bob Marley, and you have to understand. This would be the disconnection is if I only put English material. If you get all the way to the score, ever since I've been putting out English material, I've always put out Creole and French material. So there's people that show up at my concert and they start seeing a whole bunch of people singing this French and Creole stuff. They're like, how have I missed that? It's nice that I've always put Creole stuff out.
You know, and Wyclef, I want to ask you a question. I'm looking at the hundreds of questions that have been posed by our audience. If there was a cocktail, a drink out on the marketplace today in a bar, and someone sat down and ordered the Wyclef Jean, what would be in that cocktail?
It would be rum babankou, which is a rum out of Haiti.
Okay.
It's called rum babankou. That would be mixed with fresh mangoes, right? Squeeze the mango, fresh mango. And then we would throw it with a little bit of Apicon rum.
I love it.
And that would be a wrap.
You know, as I sit here in the studio next to my right is my wife, and it's a classic question she's always asked me to ask the entertainers itself. If you were to sit down and it was your last meal on earth, what is your favorite thing to eat? What goes in Wyclef's tummy?
Red snapper fish.
We say that again. We cut out there.
Snapper fish and white rice.
Okay, that's the bottom line. That's the staple of what you're eating itself. And also, too, I'm curious. And another question from an audience member wants to know: will you share the craziest thing that ever happened on the road with Wyclef?
Probably in Japan, too much sake falling off the stage.
I recommend that, I can feel you on that, brother. When I used to work with a group called Hiroshima, we used to finish up the gigs afterwards with warm sake, and if you know what I'm talking about, it's not a fun vacation, for the lack of a better word. Okay, man, that's so cool. And Wyclef, let me ask you this question too: if Wyclef wasn't playing music, if you weren't educating and inspiring the people worldwide, and if music was never in your vocabulary at all, what would Wyclef Jean be doing today?
Well, two things. Probably be a coding engineer for music, one, software, and the other two would probably teaching music.
Yeah. And can you imagine your life without music?
No. Life without music is life without life.
I agree 100%. And Florentine, you want to pick up some other questions there? I know you're looking at me and you're bobbing here.
I might help if I turn on the microphone, right? Hey, Wyclef, man. First off is, brother, dude, I'm enjoying this interview. Thank you very much for gracing us with your time. I know that this is your baby's birthday, man, and we feel blessed that you're spending this time with her. Wish her a happy birthday from all of us at Intertalk. When we get that jam box out to you, man, let her start that musical experience off with that thing. But we're here to promote you, brother, and we're here to support you. And once you've been on the Intertalk Radio Network, you are part of the family now, man. You are, you're out there, and we will always identify with this great time that we had. So with that said, man, I know that you got some great social media profiles. Can you tell us a little bit about how people can follow you? You said the Instagram at Wyclef, and I know that you have Twitter because you followed us there. And of course, they can go to your Wyclef Jean.
Wyclef.com.
Yeah,
Wyclef.com.
Yeah.
Very cool, man. because we're going to make it out there, you know, with all that, everything going on for the 420 gig over there at Embarcadero. You know, got the new tunes. What else can we expect? Are any surprises at this concert that you're going to be gracing us with on 420?
Without a spoiler alert.
Yeah, right. Without a spoiler alert.
Well, I mean, I just say if somebody's a Wyclef fan, I for brand new Wyclef. Everything, you know, we look forward to it.
Yeah, man. Well, who's not a Wyclef fan? I think everybody here in the station is, man, because your sound transcends so many different genres and so much different flavor. You know, we had a question from Cindy Ibarra that was kind of an interesting one. You know, the sound Americana's been coming out right now, and you've got these, you know, the success of people like Chris Stapleton. Is that an arena that you, that you can be jumping into, man? Is that something that you see yourself exploring?
Oh, yeah. No, definitely. I look forward to exploring, you know, like definitely.
Yeah. It's definitely unique, and I think, is there a sound that you're going to look at exploring that people would find is a surprise or a shock that, wow, he went there?
I think what always shock people is when they look at the country tribute to Johnny Cash and they see me singing Delia's Gone by Johnny Cash, which is one of the most obscure Johnny Cash songs. They trip out on how much I know about country music.
Oh wow, yeah, that is very cool.
It's very cool. You know, and Wyclef, I'm gonna finish this interview up. I think it's a beautiful thing. And Wyclef, I'll in the words of Florentino Buenaventura, we are so honored that you accepted our invitation. Thank you to Madeline. Thank you to Sky for being part of the Intertalk Radio and Jackie's Groove family itself. So Wyclef, you know, I want the audience and the listeners worldwide to say thank you, brother. Thank you for all you've done and all you will do for the music industry itself. And as I say with all of my ending broadcasts, and I say this steadfast, my brother, peace through music, and if it's not health related, it ain't shit, man. That's what the bottom line is. So thank you very much, Wyclef. Bye. Everybody say thank you to Wyclef Jean.
Thanks, Wyclef, man.
And we give you an applause, brother. And we will see you on.
I'll see y'all soon.
And we'll see you on 420, and we will also be sending you out a Jambox and to Michael and to Dwight at jambox.com. Thank you for your support. Wyclef, God bless you, brother. Godspeed and safe travels. We'll see you here in Southern California. Love you, brother.
Thank you. Look forward to it.
Much love.